Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This video is going to be talking about a very important conversation that took place in Calgary last week during the Stampede Festival. And that conversation was between the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and a Muslim parent who's also the president of one of the largest Islamic centers in Calgary. The Muslim parent brought to the Prime Minister's attention a concern from Muslim parents, which is also shared by many parents in Canada. And this concern had two parts to it. The first part was the curriculum and activities in public schools that are focused on the LGBT and the gender theory. And the second part to it is the behavior of teachers and principals when it comes to enforcing such theories and ideas. The conversation took about 8 minutes, and it had very important information that every Muslim parent needs to be aware of. I watched the conversation and I summarized it for you. I will be quoting the Prime Minister and I will be commenting on his replies. I have also divided the Prime Minister's replies into 7 main categories to make things easier for us to understand and for us to be able to know what is the position of the Prime Minister of Canada, the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, when it's related to this very sensitive topic, important topic to all parents, and specifically here to all Muslim parents. Starting with the first section, and there are 2 main points in it. I quote the Prime Minister: "There is an awful lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. People on social media, particularly the American right wing, are spreading a lot of untruth about what's actually in the provincial curriculums." He also said, and I quote, "If you look at the various curriculums, you'll see that there is not what it's being said out there about aggressive teaching or conversion of kids to be LGBT. That is something that is being weaponized by people who are not doing it because of their interest in supporting the Muslim community." Unquote. So this is what the Prime Minister said. What do we understand from the Prime Minister's comments? If you think about it, it seems like Muslim parents are provoked by misinformation, lies, deception, and disinformation that's spread on social media by people, anonymous people, or people that are trying to lure them into something. Also, it seems like Muslim parents have no idea what's going on in schools with their kids. Muslim parents are not listening to their children. Muslim parents are just reacting to outside calls. You would also feel from these comments that Muslim parents are so naive that they just follow any rumors. And this reminds me of Kathleen Wynne in 2018, when she actually went out there and said, parents are not reading the curriculum. Again, we're being accused of being ignorant, of blindly following rumors without any kind of verification. Well, here's my comment on this. Mr. Prime Minister, this is not a case about misinformation being spread over social media. These are real complaints by real parents and real children about the coercion to abandon their personal convictions, about spreading false information about their religion, about the harassment, the disrespect, the bullying, the mental abuse, the intimidation and humiliation if they respectfully ask to be exempted from activities when they feel that they are adversely affected based on their creed. And I want to bring to your attention, Mr. Prime Minister, that the Supreme Court of Canada's decision in such matters is very clear. And it says people should not be forced to participate in any activities if they are adversely affected based on their creed. So, Mr. Prime Minister, these are real sufferings of parents and students in public schools. And the second point we get out of the first 2 comments is that the Muslim parents' reaction to the LGBT ideology and aggressive teachings in schools is part of a political agenda fueled by the American right wing and weaponized by the conservatives, as mentioned. Our reply to this is, Mr. Prime Minister, the Muslim parents' reaction is not fueled by the American right wing. It's fueled by the misconduct of many teachers, like the one you heard about in Edmonton, where the teacher humiliated the Muslim student because he respectfully exempted himself without disturbing the class. They're fueled by their children complaining every single day that they're being pressured and forced against their will to participate in activities that they're not comfortable with. Mr. Prime Minister, Muslim parents are fully capable of understanding and evaluating the suffering of their children. We do not need to be fueled and controlled by others in order for us to stand up and protect our rights. We are capable of standing up and speaking by our own will and do not need to be mobilized by other groups' agendas. We're all educated and very well-principled people. And your comment, Prime Minister, about being provoked and mobilized and moved by others is a pure insult to the entire Muslim community. Point number 3, and I quote the Prime Minister, these are people on the far right who have consistently stood against Muslim rights and the Muslim community, but they are weaponizing the issue of LGBT. Also, I quote, they, talking about the conservatives, are using those fears to drive a wedge between the government that will always stand up for all your rights. And I also quote, one thing that is really important, Canada is the place to stand up for everyone's right, and certainly when it comes to the Muslim community in Canada, we were the government that pushed back against the conservatives that made a commitment campaign against the niqab, brought in the snitch line against Muslims, the Islamophobia pushed by the previous conservative government in a whole bunch of different ways. This government has been the strongest ally to all minority communities, including Muslims that have faced terrible violence. The black Muslim woman in Edmonton that was attacked. He's referring to an incident that took place in Edmonton. I also quote, scaring parents into what is being taught that is hurting the fabric of respect and openness that allows Canada to be one of the places where we support and defend the Muslim community more than just about any other Western country in the world. What do we understand from this comment? It seems like the PM is using fear tactics to scare off Muslim parents from standing up and asking for the rights by pointing out the challenges that the Muslim community had during the Stephen Harper government and by focusing on the terrible condition of Muslim communities in other Western countries. Our message to you, Mr. Prime Minister, is please do not turn the genuine concern and love of these parents to their children into a political game. Politics has no room in this. These are real people that are concerned for their children. These are real parents that want to make sure their religious rights are protected and they can pass on their beliefs to their children. Point number 4, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, the federal government is unequivocal for standing for everyone's rights and freedoms. And the highest expression of parents' rights is the safety and well-being of the child. When he said this, or during the conversation, the Muslim parent mentioned the incident of the Londonderry Junior High School in Edmonton, where a Muslim student was humiliated, was abused, was yelled at by the teacher. Why? Just simply because he walked out in respect, without disturbing the class, to protect his religious beliefs, because he doesn't want to participate in activity that conflicts with his belief, and it is his absolute right to do so. What did the Prime Minister reply? He said, and I quote, what happened to that teacher? He was asking, what happened to that teacher? And then he went on saying, the teacher got serious consequences because that is not something that is acceptable. So he confirmed that that teacher got punished for what she did, and he does not accept what she did. Then the Muslim parents said, and said it clearly, we need the government to come out and say, we do not support that, we do not accept that. So yes, the teacher suffered the consequence, but it wasn't because the government took actions. It was because the community took action. It was because the community and the community's organizations complained. The teacher suffered the consequence of her actions. But what did the government do? Did the government come out and gave a powerful statement saying Muslim children have the right to follow the dictates of their religion? No. Did the government come out and say Muslim community and all communities of faith and all communities and members of the Canadian society, all citizens have the right to follow their religion even if it contradicts with others? No. Did the government come out and say respecting others does not mean you have to believe that they're right or what they preach or present is true? No, the government didn't do anything. It was during this conversation that he said, we reject it or we don't accept it. But the request is clear. We want a statement, a clear statement to let everybody know, to confirm that we all as citizens are equal and we all have the right to follow our religion. Then the Prime Minister said, and I quote, the federal government doesn't control what happened to teachers, but it does not represent my position or the government position. He again said, we can't control teachers and we can't control what happens to them, meaning we have no power to go and basically discipline teachers, but it doesn't represent us. So again, I ask here, what is the understanding from the Prime Minister's statement? When he was asked about the role of the government to protect citizens, what is the government's role to make sure that the citizens have the right to follow their religion, have the right to defend their children from being violated, from their religion and the rights being violated in schools? He danced around that and he said, well, we protect everybody's right. And then he said, well, this is not our jurisdiction. This has to do with education and it's provincial and what have you. He basically confirmed that he did not do anything and he will not do anything because simply he confirmed that this is a provincial issue, is not a federal issue. But again, we see that he contradicts himself here because if it has anything to do with the LGBT rights, he would stand up strongly and say, we defend their rights. They have their rights. They have the right to love whoever they love. They have the right to be whoever they... Sure, everybody has the right. Nobody denied anyone's rights. What we're saying here is Muslim students, people of faith, citizens of faith are subjected to pressure. And it doesn't seem like they have the same right. We need a strong stand from the government to defend everybody's right to follow their creed, to follow their religion. So this is our message to the Prime Minister. Please stand up strong like you do for everybody, like you do for the LGBT community, and announce clearly that the Muslim community and all people of faith have the right to follow the dictates of their religion, have the right to follow their creed, have the right to follow their belief, even if it contradicts with others, which means they have the right to be exempted from any activities that will have an adverse impact or effect on their students. They have the right to say no. They have the right to say, I respect, but I don't have to follow, and I don't have to participate, and I don't have to promote, and I don't have to celebrate. Is this something that the Prime Minister is willing to do? Point number 5, and I quote, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that protects your religion and gives you the freedom of religion and allow you to fully participate in society and gives you all the protections, protects all minorities as well. So the Prime Minister is telling that same father what I just read, and then he said, you can't get the protection that you want from the Charter and leave aside others. Standing up for people's rights means standing up for everybody's rights, unquote. And I quote again, standing up for everyone's rights, what you get from the Liberal government. We will defend your rights even when you disagree with us defending other people's rights. Very interesting. 2 honestly disturbing ideas the Prime Minister presented in these 2 quotes. The Prime Minister insists on attaching or explaining the request of Muslim parents to protect and defend their rights, to show it as if they're asking him to deny other people's rights. It's a very strange duality from the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, we're just asking you to protect our rights. The same man that you're talking to in this conversation, he told you in the very beginning of the conversation that we respect the people's right to choose. We respect people enjoying their rights and freedoms. We're not asking you to deny their rights. And this, honestly, is becoming very cumbersome. Every time we talk to an official, we have to explain ourselves, saying, we appreciate, we respect people having those rights. We're not asking you to deny people their rights. We're not asking you to violate other groups' rights. We're not asking you to stop defending the LGBT community's rights. Nobody's asking for this. What we're saying simply is, stand up strong, courageous, and help us all protect our rights. Stand up for everybody's rights. Talk about the rights of all citizens to follow the dictates of their beliefs. Stand up for everybody's freedoms. We're not asking you to favor one over another. However, you are contradicting yourself with your statements. We all deserve the same rights. We all deserve the same protection. And nobody is asking you to stop defending the LGBT community or any other groups. We all should enjoy these rights, and we all should enjoy these freedoms. And the specific freedoms that we're talking about related to the Muslim community is their right to follow the dictates of their religion. And it seems from your statement that you are aware of Islam's strong opinion on sexuality and gender theory. So we need protection. We need to be empowered so we can freely follow our religion without infringing on other people's rights. We all agree on this equation. Point number 6, and I quote, yes, Islam has strong opinions on the LGBT issue, the same way that the religious right in Canada, the Christian right, has strong opinions against it as well. So that's what the Prime Minister said. He is fully aware that Islam has strong opinion on the LGBT issue. He admitted that he is aware of Islam's strong position and opinion on the LGBT issue. And here we say, Mr. Prime Minister, the strong opinion is unambiguous, is undisputed, and is clearly stated in a very important document called Navigating Differences that was issued in May of 2023 by a group of scholars and imams in North America. So these Muslim scholars and imams made the opinion very clear. It's not hidden. We're not ashamed of it. This is our religion, and we have the right to follow our beliefs exactly like everybody else have the right to follow whatever theories they want and whatever beliefs they want to follow. And I read from this document the following. By decree from God, sexual relations are permitted within the bounds of marriage, and marriage can only occur between a man and a woman. 2, premarital and extramarital sexual acts are prohibited in Islam. 3, God defined humanity as consisting of males and females. 4, Islam strictly prohibits medical procedures intended to change the sex of healthy individuals, regardless of whether such procedures are termed gender affirming or confirming. 5, based on the aforementioned, homosexuality is a sin in Islam. 6, in Islam, the sinful action of an individual do not and should not dictate his or her identity. 7, it is impermissible for Muslims to take pride in identifying with labels that categorize them by their sins. This is the clear, strong opinions of Islam in the issue. And this is our religion. This is our belief. And we have the right to hold on to it and to manifest it. So this is what we're asking for, Mr. Prime Minister. And I say, Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to respect our religion? Are you going to support us in following our religion? This is a question that requires an answer. Point number 7, and the last point, and I quote the Prime Minister: "People are free to have their religious belief, but we have to defend everyone's right within the community. That includes the right to be who you are, to love whom you love." And listen to this. He went on to say, "I know your parents' generation might have more uncertainty about that. But that is where this generation and your kids' generation can show the cost, the responsibility that comes in being in a free country that stands for everyone's rights, is that we will stand up for everyone's rights, including people from the LGBT community who are facing increasing levels of violence and hatred, as same as the Muslim community who is facing increasing levels of violence and hatred, also as same as the Asian community." And the Prime Minister also stated that he will always stand up for the rights of the LGBT kids, and he also stated the LGBT Muslim kids. What do we understand from this? Despite of the Prime Minister's awareness of Islam's strong opinions on LGBT issues, he mentions indirectly that the parents' generation, the older generation, is having uncertainties about the LGBT issues. He's also making it sound like it's a cultural issue and it's related to the older generation, and it has to be changed by mentioning that your generation and your kids' generation have to be responsible and have to stand up for everybody's rights. And our message to Mr. Trudeau is the following: Islam's strong opinion on the LGBT issue is not a cultural matter nor a generational matter. And I read from the same document, Navigating Differences, the following statement: "We recognize that some religious groups have reinterpreted or revised religious doctrine to be inclusive of LGBTQ ideology. The Muslim community is not immune to such pressures. Indeed, some have attempted to reinterpret Islamic texts in favor of LGBTQ affirmation. We reject such efforts as theologically indefensible because these aspects of sexual ethics fit within the category of immutable tenets and are therefore not subject to revision." So, Mr. Prime Minister, this position of Islam is unchangeable. It's immutable. No one can change it. No one is allowed to change it. This is our religion. We're proud of it, and we have the right to follow it. And we ask you, exactly like you're so passionate about defending everybody's rights, the LGBT community's rights, we ask you to also stand up for our rights to follow our religion and follow our creed. And we appreciate your call for collaboration. We appreciate your call for all communities and minorities to work with each other to protect their rights, but that does not mean that we have to believe in each other's ideologies. Number one thing we agree on is we all have the right for our freedom of beliefs and freedom of religion and freedom of creed, but no one has the right to impose their ideas over others, and no one has the right to deny others their rights. This is simply what we're asking for as Muslim parents, and we expect you, as the Prime Minister of Canada, to protect all Canadians. And we ask you, as the Prime Minister of Canada, to be fair to all Canadians, to protect the rights and the freedoms of all Canadians.